Hey, hello everybody. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, everyone.
I'm Keith from MindSet.
And I am Brian of TINYCRYPTOBLOG.
We're glad to be here today to kind of talk a little bit about what we're thinking is in store for us in 2024.
Yes.
And
we finally did it. We're getting a collaboration together.
I know it's been a long time coming, honestly. Hey, I've been fortunate. You've been on my Crypto on the Rocks a couple of times, which has been great, by the way. Look forward to having you there again. But to do this, where we're focused on a specific topic, I'm all about it.
So where do you want to start? What's first on the list?
Well, let's see. Let's go. Ooh,
so we're thinking what? Going right into 2024, or is there anything from 20? I guess I should ask if there's anything from 2023 worth noting, because I can think of like a few things that recapped our year, like Bitcoin ETFs, the regulatory stuff, all the legal stuff with. Gosh, I can go into a lot of areas.
Yeah, I know, right? I'm sure we could. Well, I mean, I think, my opinion, the most notable things for 2023 were probably all the legal victories we saw against the SEC with regard to Ripple, them eventually dropping the lawsuit against the owners of Ripple, and then Grayscale's victory, for example, to have their trust transitioned. And the one other thing I'd like to note legal wise is fight back a little bit against the SEC. I think that was a needed thing in this industry.
Definitely.
We probably should point out that there is still some other stuff pending in the legal realm with regard to lawsuits for Coinbase against the SEC and Kraken. They're back at Kraken again. The SEC. Anyway,
did Coinbase, did they press the suit, or was it the SEC that pressed the suit against Coinbase?
I believe there is two suits going on, and one of those each way, because the Coinbase was trying to force them with regard to regulation, like give us some guidance, and basically they're like, there's plenty of guidance.
Okay,
it's really not, but anyway, so did I miss anything? I mean, something that hit you that I might have forgotten?
No, because I'm thinking in my mind some of these topics from 2023 are going to carry forward, and just they became evolving storylines that are going to carry into 24, like all the KYC, the entry of all the TradFi players into the space, some of the upcoming trends. So I think like pretty much like those things, the Bitcoin ETF, and then in my mind anyway, we'll probably I'm thinking as we talk, random debris will start popping in. It's like, oh yeah, and then this is a part of it, that's a part of it. So I figure we'll probably catch it all, just like a good old dragnet.
At one point or another, yep, absolutely. Well, I'll tell you what, seeing we started with that or landed on that as my opinion. Well, let me ask, do you have a different opinion as some of the biggest things in 2023?
Psychology in the bear market turned around.
I ain't gonna argue that.
I mean, that's always a nice thing.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I ain't gonna argue that, as because then what happens? Whoop. As what's his name? Saifuddin Ammous likes to say, number go up. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Number go up.
I mean, if anything, in that regards, it's an indicator that all of the bad debris, like the analogies, used for regular economics about how all of the, to get technical, all the inefficiencies like dry debris in a forest get burned out and sets the stage for new growth.
Yep.
So I figure we've reached that point where, with all the legal stuff that happened, with all of the, just everything happening, it cleared the path where, okay, we're ready to go forward now.
Well, seeing we seem to be circling around the regulation and the regulatory framework right now. You want to start there, and we'll talk 2024 with that.
Sure.
All right, let's pop that up there and make it official. All right. So, I'll tell you what. Go ahead, start us off. What are your thoughts with regard to crypto regulation coming down the pike?
So when I think about crypto regulations, I think about things pretty much that touches everything from what the big players in money, and I think we've referenced this numerous times in Crypto on the Rocks. You've said it kind of on your show and my show, where it's like acknowledging the as George Carlin puts it, the club.
Yes.
Where you've got basically
and we ain't in it.
Yes. How would you call it? Like the connected class, the political class, the moneyed class, something like that, where they, rules for me, but not for thee. Yep. And all those people, the hedge fund managers, the people that have access to money, political influence, what have you, I could see one part of this, like one thread being, what do the large money players do to maximize their gains? I mean, I could easily see, as far as legal actions going into and regulations, things being done to enable all these different funds and then banks as well to be able to engage in certain activities and stay within parameters of legality, but also humans being humans in the way just we are. I could see them also creating laws and regulations to sort of create that regulatory moat to block out competition, new entrants, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
I know in headlines, probably in recent past weeks, I've seen a lot of headlines where banks, this is worldwide, are starting to enter into the fray with offering crypto services, both buying, selling, custody. I think the last one I saw might have been in Germany, maybe. And to me, that's a signal that they're jumping into the game. And if they can push all these, I'm not going to call them jumpstart, but like the native crypto exchanges that sprung up back in the early days, from being in the field or just having an advantage, from history and a user base, they'll definitely try and push things in that direction. But also, too, there'll be a little bit of back and forth when they're trying to make the new rules. I imagine the crypto lobbies will probably just say, hey, we object to this proposed sort of, this proposed rule or that legal requirement or filing thing or whatever it is. So, I mean, it's going to be a back and forth in that area.
Hopefully, because otherwise I think it's just going to be overrun by the people that got the most money right now and the ears of the people who are making the laws.
Yeah. Because I think one of the risks too would be with the TradFi players, if there are any kind of workarounds that, whether deliberate or just someone, in there, almost like someone in the TradFi space goes, oh, wait a second, there's no rule saying we can't do this. And then it leads to rehypothecation of assets in some sort of way.
Right.
In which case it's the leverage lemmings ready to go off a cliff at some point. And then you're going to get people to get burned. And then naturally the fingers are going to get pointed somewhere else. And we're going to have scapegoats that shouldn't be scapegoats.
No argument there. I'm wondering though, is that how truly possible is that though? I mean, yes, in theory, on paper, you could rehypothecate Bitcoin, for example. But beyond that, you can't really do that, can you? I mean, do you see something I'm missing?
If anything, the physical physical, air quote, physical, because it's digital.
Physical, yeah. I gotcha.
The actual Bitcoin itself, no, but the derivative product, yes.
Yeah.
Where, I figure if anything, there might be a way where you, like, just an example, and folks, this is just an example, and I'm just kind of pulling this one out of thin air. Let's say you had an ETF. You have 100 Bitcoin in your tiny little ETF. You've got the original derivative product, which is the shares of the ETF that's backed by the Bitcoin. What if, just like you had with crypto lending, what if the custodian of that Bitcoin is able to use either the Bitcoin or even the shares of the ETF, going back to Grayscale's days with their GBTC, use those, the collateral product, as collateral for something else? I suppose, do you think that might qualify by definition as rehypothecation, even though it's not directly tied? There's that layer in between.
Well, even if it doesn't qualify in definition, I think it qualifies in the result of what would happen. So yes, with regard to that, I can see that. I can see that. Let's hope that's not the case. I mean, I have very mixed feelings. Like, for example, we've seen as the SEC has put like the final, give me your final revisions for a spot Bitcoin ETF for the applicants that have applied. They not only want an in-kind, but they also want a cash option. And I got very mixed feelings about that. I mean, I guess other ETFs similar. I mean, if you were to take like a gold ETF or whatever, the language is similar. You know what I'm saying? So I guess in theory that's not really such a stretch, but I don't know. I see that as an open or potential for opening a door, and I'm not personally too thrilled about that. So that, again, that's just, my humble opinion, and we know how humble I can be.
Technical question. With the in-kind and the cash option, the way I'm understanding it, with the cash option, isn't it like if you wanted to buy shares, is it buying into the fund without purchasing the shares directly? That I'm understanding, or how is?
Well, I could be wrong, but I was under the impression it was on the sales end of things.
Oh, so, like the redemption.
Exactly. And guys, not financial advice, not financial advisor, could be completely wrong about that. And if I am, in the chat, comments, if you're watching this after the fact, and let me know, feel free to correct me. Hey, I'm only right some of the time. But but as I understand it, it's on the redemption, not the purchase.
What do you see as far as the downside of a cash redemption versus getting the actual asset?
I see potential, and again, maybe this is my limited understanding, but I see potential for manipulation at that point. What's to stop for manipulating the redemption price at that point? One price if you redeem the actual asset, one price if you redeem cash. What's to stop with the means? Like, in other words, well, if you're going to take it in cash, we can do X, Y, and Z. If you want Bitcoin, X. That's it. I see, again, my limited understanding of this, but I would think that there is a possibility for manipulation that we wouldn't want to see as part of the Bitcoin ETF, a spot Bitcoin ETF.
Here's a hypothetical, then again, what I was going to say was, if there was, let's say someone did a redemption in cash, the first thought in my mind was, what happens to the Bitcoin? But I'm guessing here, not that I know, but if if the I never really looked too hard into the actual back end mechanics of any ETF where, okay, if the value of the share price goes up, they have to buy more. But then
Yep.
if that goes down, are they obligated to sell to either reduce the discount, or do they just hold their assets and then that discount becomes the incentive to drive new money in and bring that price up?
Kind of like Grayscale's GBTC scenario.
Yeah.
And I would see that part as what you just said, kind of hold the asset, and because again, the price is going to fluctuate. That's the point, right? But on the redemption end, that's where I would think, and again, limited understanding what it is, the back end of the workings, but it would make sense to me if you're taking a cash payout, you would sell the asset, right? Or you would take the asset off your books in whatever means that is. That's my humble opinion and understanding.
Okay. I was looking at the crypto regulations little board, and a thought popped into my head. Slight rail shift here. With the SEC and still applying the Howey test. Am I saying that right?
Yep.
Do you think that there might be, or have you seen anything that would indicate that there'd be any progress, headway as far as having non-Bitcoin and Ethereum tokens and digital assets being treated either as commodities or something that's basically not as a security? So you can't use you're selling unlicensed securities type of thing, like say, layer 2 tokens and coins, or
I get what you're saying, but
yeah.
I mean, the fact that it would be an ETF makes sense to me, that no matter what the commodity is, it would be a security at that point because of the way it's being sold.
Are you talking about the ETF itself?
Well, isn't that what you meant? Did I misunderstand your question?
Oh, no. I was like completely jumping off the ETF train.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. And going the whole thing with Gary Gensler saying, well, like Cardano is a security and Avalanche is a security and you can't sell this. Do you think anything would happen that would change that, so that all of a sudden these tokens that before were defined as being securities suddenly are not securities anymore?
Well, I think that's going to end up either one, and I guess that plays into what we're thinking for crypto regulations for 2024. Either one is going to end up being legislated as such, which I have. I don't know if we're going to see that in 2024 as much as I'd like to see that. I have a different thought about where legislation might be going with regard to 2024, or where we'll land by the end of 2024. Or it will be legal remedies, much like we saw with Ripple and Grayscale here. And you want the truth? I think it's going to end up being more legal remedies through the court that is going to temporarily, or at least for the majority of 2024, give us our definitions of what's a security and what's not, despite what the SEC throws against the wall. That's that's the way I see it. If you'd like to finish your thought, because I think that you one of the things you wanted to discuss was stablecoins, and I think that area is going to be where we're going to see the majority of regulation in 2024. Well, that regulation that might actually hit the ground running, if you know what I'm saying, because you know how it is. Our legislative process is a quagmire. It takes forever to get anything through, and with any kind of consensus from our Congress. But I think that stable coins are in a unique position to get through that as legislatively.
Do you want to slide into that topic wise?
If you'd like, I didn't want to cut you out of other regulation stuff you wanted to discuss. So
everything. I mean, it all blends together.
I don't disagree, but listen, here's why I think this way, and then you can tell me you're an idiot, Keith. Feel free. You know what I'm saying? But here's the thing: the majority of these stable coins are already centralized. As much as I hate to admit it, and it is what it is. The OCC, the Office of the Comptroller of Currency in the United States, has already allowed for banks to run stablecoin nodes. So, and I mean, that's not even new. That's been around for like 3-4 years now.
Oh, wow.
So it's like, it makes sense to me that it's the slow march. And then, this year we saw 2023, we saw Fed Now launch, which again, is not technically a CBDC. It's their settlement system, yada, yada, yada. To me, and I've always said it since the beginning, I see that as the precursor to a CBDC. But here's the thing. If they're going to try to move in that direction, which I think the U.S. government, unfortunately, is going to try and move in that direction, the first thing they need to get a handle on, in my opinion, is stablecoins. And as they're currently as centralized as they are, and they can, in theory, legislatively pick the winners and losers. They can force the U.S. banks who are already running these nodes to act and do whatever it is that they want to do, kind of like going on with Ethereum and the nodes with regard to OFAC, So I see that they're going to, or my opinion is, they're going to legislate. Here's what we can do with stable coins. You can use these as a settlement layer. You can do whatever they legislate. And then at the end of the day, at the end of 2024, that's going to provide a two-pronged possible process with regard to legislation. One for the inception of a CBDC, which I honestly think we're going to see some rollout of that in 2025, and cryptocurrency regulation as a whole, and how they're going to try and legislate the space. Because at that point, stable coins are part of the space, so their in will be there. And again, everything I'm saying, I'm talking from a U.S. perspective. We've seen other things going on in the EU and in Asia and so on and so forth, and that's great. But I mean, I'm speaking from, I guess I'm being a little bit selfish, speaking from my own country perspective here. But I also know that's where I got the majority of my viewers. So, but that's the way I see it, and I think, like I said, as far as legislation with regard to cryptocurrency, I think stable coins are going to be the in 2024 to move it forward. What do you think? Am I crazy?
If you're crazy, then I'm crazy too.
Okay. I guess we're crazy together. There you
go. No, I've was doing some reading and hearing commentary about that, stable coins being the Trojan horse, where because they're already so embedded into the legalatory. Hey, maybe I can make up a word. The legalatory.
There you go. Hey, why not?
The legal and regulatory framework. I just think of like Circle and what's like Tether, seeing the articles about how they've already onboarded the U.S. Secret Service. Like, I don't know in what way, shape, or form the U.S. Secret Service and that other agency is involved, but the fact that I also saw a headline within the last week about how many addresses and the dollar amount in U.S. dollars that Tether had locked addresses. Now, granted,
yes, I remember. I'll try and look it up while you're chatting. I remember something about that.
And I think both Coinbase and Cointelegraph had reported on that. And when I think about that, and the fact that you've got Fed now that you could use, even if it's not for a particular coin, but just as a platform that connects all the related parties, if there's a way to integrate it, and as you said, which I didn't even catch that fact that banks can run stablecoin nodes.
Yeah, that's been around for a few years now.
Then you've got the infrastructure already, it's building up the infrastructure, and all you need is the go or the push to start using those platforms and start using the tools in place on those platforms. And the fact, the whole regulatory structure and scheme is there.
All right, hang on. Here we go.
Yeah.
So this is the one that pops up first, and of course they relate it to linked to the Ukraine and Russia and terrorism and yada yada yada. That's what they say about all of it. But the fact that they can freeze, in this case, 32 crypto addresses, I don't know. Much like I was saying with what's going on now, proof of stake Ethereum, a true blockchain, you can't freeze it.
No.
It is what it is. So, and I guess stable coins aren't meant to be a true blockchain. They're meant to be a trading
token
base layer. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but to your point right here,
related to this, since we're talking about the infrastructure things, do you think, or have you seen anything that might indicate things like either wallets, like I know what Goofy Liz Warren is trying to propose as far as disclosure, or being able to put the squeeze on centralized teams, like let's say MetaMask, to require have certain either KYC or certain requirements that basically force a transparency that can be abused further down the road.
Yes.
The KYC corral
is the short answer. Yes. They're going to try like hell. And that's kind of where I think, where my thought process is with regard to stable coins, because if they can do it in that realm, well, it's like, I can already hear it, well, I mean, obviously we need to do this for those pegged to the US dollar, to the yuan, to the euro, to the whatever. So now we need to do it for, these other assets that are being traded or purchased from these, now we know who you are, assets like stablecoins. And yes, I mean, the way that these things are worded are purposely broad. And I think that, unfortunately, especially for those in the United States, like companies in the United States, based in the United States, that are wallet creators, if they have any influence, I mean, and most of them do, because what do? I mean, look at all this bullshit that's happened with Ledger. I mean, it's been exactly. It's like Ledger has lost all credibility. I'm sorry, they just have. Yeah, I know I used to promote Ledger, and I still use Ledger because I need to, because it's the interface for certain other things I do. But that is no longer my main thing. And they got in this problem because what are they doing? They have to update their firmware, et cetera, et cetera. Well, take like you pointed out, MetaMask or Exodus, for example.
Yeah.
All US based. And you think they're not going to bow to regulatory pressure from the US? I mean, these agencies are being weaponized against this industry on purpose. So again, I see stable coins, and USDT, USDC, whatever, being the lead in, and then then it's going to be like, well, now we need to know what's going on in MetaMask, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And here's the thing. I mean, MetaMask, as a prime example, uses part of the way it operates is through AWS services. Well, guess what? Talk about centralized.
Yeah.
Talk about censorship. I mean,
oh no.
Sorry, I know I kind of babbled. Please.
Oh no, the back end service shut down today. Gosh.
Exactly.
Couldn't use things.
Yes.
Oh no, the market was down and son of a gun, AWS just happened to have a glitch.
Yep.
I mean,
yep. I don't know. That's, well, I'll give you I'll wait till the final thoughts section of our talk here. But I see a lot of this crap happening in 2024. I just do. And unfortunately, you're right, I think, when you're talking about how it's going to affect wallet services potentially for US users. Outside the US, I mean, unless you're living in the EU or whatever, it's what it is.
Yeah.
You're not getting this kind of regulation or this kind of regulatory pressure, if you would, or at least like you're getting here in the United States. I think wallets are going to be another one of those things. I think we might skate with wallets until 2025, my opinion. But I see that as a bigger battle than I do for 2024.
Almost like they're on the list, but it's not a priority as far as attempted groundwork being laid.
My opinion. Get the trading asset under control. For the base trading asset for all cryptocurrencies is Bitcoin. They can't get that under control, with the exception of trying to manipulate the price via these ETFs. But okay, whatever. That still doesn't change that approximately every 10 minutes a new block is being formed, and so on and so forth. It doesn't change that. So to that degree, I don't see them being able to gain that control with that particular trading asset. However, the rest of it, like USDT being the biggest other trading asset, USDT has been capitulating quite a lot lately. Correct me if you think I'm wrong, with regard to requests from different agencies here in the US. They just like, okay, whatever you say. Where before it was just like, screw you, leave me alone. It's just not that way anymore. I think they're slowly bending to the pressure.
Do you think part of that, because I know there's always been that thing as far as, and this is going back, probably 2007. Did Tether start up when did it start up? 16, 17, 15?
I think it might have been 15. I'm not, well, you know what? I'll look it up. I'm not 100% sure. I know it was around when I came into the picture in early 17. So,
because I'm going back to its old days, I just think about Tether's whole storyline of how there was not a lot for the longest time of not having as transparent or open as they do today. As far as, okay, all this money they're getting for creating the stablecoin, what's that being put into? And I think like pressure in order to stay in operation, and maybe because it's the same owners as Tether being tied to Bitfinex, if there was that extra threat incentive, that
I mean, that is what you're correct. That's exactly what it is. Even though it's a separate company, it is tethered, no pun intended, to Bitfinex. And right here, 2014, to answer your question. 2014. So,
back in the Wild West days, when someone comes up with an idea, they make it, they run with it, and figure things out as they go along.
Exactly. But yeah, that's, I don't know. That's what I see with regard to, I know we've kind of been bouncing back and forth here a little bit between the regulation and stable coins, but I really see that, unfortunately, or again, my opinion is I think stable coins are going to be that.
All
that
right.
door.
I was thinking, so I'm looking at my little notes here.
Mm.
Real quickly, do you think with DEXs, if there's going to be anything that could have a significant effect as far, or maybe just in the US, anywhere else, I guess, too, that affects either accessibility or reportability or something that takes away its core function and mission of being a decentralized thing where anyone can use it anywhere, anytime? Do you see any boulders coming down the road for that?
Well, I do think they're going to try and roll some boulders down there with regard to that. Again, they've already started that with their definition of broker dealer in the current legislation. And here's the thing. A truly decentralized exchange, I think, will be able to weather that storm. Because at the end of the day, if it is truly decentralized, governments can put up whatever regulation they want. But if the protocol is and the blockchain is what it is, there is no changing it if it is a true blockchain.
I've never used a decentralized exchange, and one of the vulnerabilities I'm wondering, the way that you can track addresses using things like mixers or coin joins, can the same be said of a DEX?
That's a great question. I believe it depends on the DEX, like what type of DEX it is exactly you're using, and what help me, what wallet you're using to access that DEX.
Okay.
So, like for example, I think that's possible. For example, like with Uniswap, if you're using MetaMask as your access point, for the very reasons we talked about just a few minutes ago. But I think, and I'll be experimenting with something like a Thor chain, which again, you have limited, like you can use MetaMask with Thor chain, for example. But depending on how you access that, that ability is mitigated. And we're going to see. I've got some videos I'm starting to slowly put together with regard to that. Something like that type of exchange where it's literal one for one across any chain, I think makes that almost impossible for what you're asking.
And almost like as you're talking about that, it just makes me think the main vulnerability point that legal and regulatory frameworks can touch is the interaction points, like the wallets, I mean, maybe as deep as like IP addresses, or I don't know, anything where any electronic or software-based point that interfaces with that protocol, that would be, if there's a way to capture, get visibility into that, that would be the main risk vectors.
You're correct. I agree. The metadata. Yeah, exactly. I agree. And that's why, again, for people shouldn't use the same Bitcoin address. You should be rotating your Bitcoin addresses. I mean, you should be using VPNs, stuff like that. I mean, these are just standard safety procedures that's, in my opinion, just good practice regardless. But, I see, and because you brought it up, I think that is going to be something that is going to be huge as we move forward through 2024. People taking additional security precautions. Say that 5 times fast. Precautions. As they're doing what they need to do with regard to these DEXs, because I think we're going to see 2024 as the year of DEXs, assuming that, how they access the dexes will leave open to discussion, because I don't think things like MetaMask, for example, as much as MetaMask is easy to use, it's quick, the interface is simple, that kind of thing. The fact that it relies on centralized entities to function properly is, like you said, its central point of failure. And I think will eventually be what's going to, or the lack of people being able to utilize it properly is going to be what funnels people from like maybe like a Uniswap. And this is why I said I'm going to be focusing on something like Thorchain, which is, again, it's strictly chain to chain. They're just the intermediary, versus Uniswap, you're talking Ethereum tokens. PancakeSwap, you're talking BSC. BSC.
Yeah.
So I don't know. That's my thought. I think you hit the nail on the head, and unfortunately, fortunately, unfortunately, I think it's going to be 2024. You're going to see a lot of migration, and especially if more regulation comes than we've even discussed here, for those in the United States, it's going to be like run to the DEX. My opinion.
All right. What else do we have on the list? I think.
We got tokenization, building on Bitcoin, project predictions, any areas of risk, any of that you want to touch on next? You decide.
Boy. Is there any kind of time limit you wanted to have on this?
Personally, for me, nope, no time limit. Okay. I mean, I probably have to be out of here in another hour, but I mean, that gives us another hour.
All right. There's a part of me it's like debating between getting through the grind, the Bitcoin stuff, because I consider myself more, like, as far as knowledge goes, drenched in the Bitcoin and the Bitcoin ethos. I leave all the other projects to you and FF and Jar.
Thank
you. But actually, let's go into the building on Bitcoin. Okay.
Well, I only because you mentioned Bitcoin, we can go to tokenization. I'm good with that. It's up to you.
Yeah, let's mix it up. Get some spark, an emotional spark, because I think we can get our true feelings out.
There we go.
Tokenization.
Tokenization it is.
So I think two things I was thinking, being that we're entering into a new bull cycle, we're going to be, and I did a wonderful short talking about this cycle's new crypto millionaires, that we're going to be seeing all the people hawking and cawing about how brilliant they are, and all just
every bull cycle, right?
Oh God, every single cycle, and a lot of those people are going to have their rear ends handed to them too, because they don't know what they're doing.
Amen.
But in the same thread, as far as with tokenization, which is the idea of taking a real world asset and kind of like basically NFTs, applying a digital, it's essentially like a digital document, I guess you could say, to that asset, same as you would say like a legal document or a share of stock or something. I can see tokenization. There's two threads. I see one is the technology implementation and how, when it comes to new technologies, you get the hype, where it's, in the last cycle, it was NFT, the artwork specifically. In the prior cycle, it was ICOs. I don't think there was really anything in the cycle prior to that.
No.
But I'm seeing more and more headlines where they're talking about tokenization.
Yes.
And I've been starting to build this Twitter thread where you see tokenization. And I think what I'm seeing is that this time around, where a lot of traction will come in will be in the TradFi space, where it's a way for them basically just to create a monetization scheme. I could see this being just like with NFTs or ICOs, initial coin offerings,
Mhm.
which for those not familiar, this was back in the 2017 cycle. And basically all it is, I think it was just on Ethereum at the time, where
Primarily, yeah.
yeah, where you would send your Ethereum to an Ethereum contract and you would get the equivalent value in tokens into your wallet of whatever that project was. And basically it was fundraising. There wasn't any framework for, like right now, if you were to buy, like if someone wanted to sell stock to in the US to raise money, there's certain reporting requirements, financials, disclosures, conflicts of interest, risks, market risks, investment risks, that sort of thing, where at least the disclosure is there so people can do the research and know what they're walking into, versus an ICO, which is you set up a website, you get some flashy videos, you talk about what you want to do, and maybe something comes out of it, maybe not. I think there were a couple that, gosh, there was one, it was like a ship coin where they wanted to tokenize, do like supply chain tracking. Well, that didn't turn into anything. That was probably $50 lost.
Yeah.
But there, with the I could see when you think about how the shortfalls for disclosure and things set up with and the disclosure elm end for the purpose of safety and minimization of risk, or for transparency. I could see with tokenization there would be legal requirements for the kind of get disclosure to, okay, who is issuing these tokens? What's being done? Is this done in like a certain structured way? And I'm sure we're probably going to have people in other countries that don't, or in places that don't have the structure in place for disclosure, saying, we're tokenizing this asset, we're tokenizing that asset. I mean, I think Banana Coin was one of those things that could almost fall into that for a tokenization. I don't know if you remember that one, Banana Coin. There was literally a banana coin where it was something in.
I mean, it sounds vaguely familiar, but I don't remember it.
Yeah. Where it's like the fundraise and fund, their banana plantations and stuff, blah, blah, blah. But I could see there being, we'll hear about scams where people got scammed, because I bought this thing with a tokenized asset. It turned out to be baloney, or it turned out to be.
It wasn't bananas. Yeah.
Yeah. There was no underlying asset. It was just, I sent them my Ether or Solana or whatever it would be, and then see, it wouldn't want to be a. But I could see that coming into the space and being driven, being that it would be a new, being that it would be getting the hype and the excitement, tokens for tokenized thing, or if there might be any, I wouldn't be surprised if any companies or TradFi companies are building their own layer 2s to run their own tokenization where they control the protocol. That could be something we see as well, where, they get the full benefits. Yep. And they get to, decide what the rules are, where it's, essentially controlled, or a private layer on there. Yeah. And I could see that driving the hype being the retail crowd that went nuts for ICOs in 17 and went nuts for NFTs in 21 and 22. Just driving things where it's going to be the same. You get that massive upward spike and everyone's jumping on board and this can't lose. This is the future. And then eventually you get the blowout as all the garbage and debris gets cleared out. But the tie into that, or the conclusion, I think you can kind of get where I'm trying to, the word I'm trying to think of when I think about, like, the example that always comes to mind was someone wrote about the railroads and how railroads were a emerging technology or like a up and coming technology, and people invested heavily in railroads because it's like, oh my God, everyone's doing it and so practical and making profits. And then all the railroad stocks crashed. But all of the things as far as like the underlying technology or the literal physical infrastructure and the things that were learned, it's like all the good stuff went forward. And then the railroad industry and the implementation just grew from there. And then all the stuff that didn't work or the fraudulent practices or just bad practices dropped by the wayside. The same with this. I think as someone put it, every new hype cycle or every new cycle, the hype is what, after that cycle ends, that'll be the new technology that'll get built bigger and better. So we're going to see, if that's the case, we're going to see more about NFTs as far as artwork, tokenization, and whatnot. But I can also see, kind of in line with, all your new crypto millionaires, you're going to be hearing just the potential is there to hear just absolutely nauseating amounts of volume from people that don't know, all the non-coiners, and then my new term, the faux coiners, about how, tokenization is the thing, and just going to hear them just barfing all over social media about it. So that was kind of my thing with tokenization, is that the feeling I'm getting and just the little signals that I'm picking up is that might be, one of the things that could get traction this next upcycle.
I agree. I think there will be hype with regard to tokenization. And you're right. It's like anything else. There's always a hype on something in every flipping cycle. But let me ask you this. Do you think that there is a legitimate use case for tokenizing these real world assets?
Yes. And I think the day we get a legal ruling, because I think back to like email, Bill Gates, I don't remember, he put out that book, The Road Ahead. Was that like 94, 95, where he's like,
I'm not sure.
So I remember listening to the audiobook, and one of the things he was talking about was email being accepted as a legal document, which, today it's like, well, you sent an email. It's just the same if you said something face-to-face someone. But back then, email was a brand new technology, and it didn't have that legal definition. Well, I think it'd be the same thing with tokenizing something on a blockchain, where once you get a legal ruling that says, by whatever parameters, this is a valid receipt of, a valid claim within the legal space, that's when things will start to get traction, and then more stuff will get thrown into the pie, and then that's just going to grow from there until one day it's like, well, of course it's legal. It's always been legal. And it'll be one of those things. But
right. It'll just be standard acceptance. Yeah. And you know what? That's an interesting thought. I hadn't quite considered the legality of it. I know that probably sounds stupid. And by the way, to answer your question, 1995 was the publishing on that book. Because to me, I think about, like, for example, Bitcoin blockchain as being immutable. So, like, of course it is what it is. You know what I mean? There's you challenge it all you want, but there it is, kind of thing. But yes, we may not necessarily have that kind of immutability, that kind of what's the word I'm looking for? That kind of
certainty.
Yes, certainty. Yes, with other blockchains, and so yeah, I concede to your point. That's a good point. And I don't know. Do you see that as something? I mean, I get that the hype part might be part of 2024 and this bull cycle we're going into, and with regard to tokenization. But do you see actual tokenization happening in 2024. Or I mean, like legit, you know what I'm saying? Like we start to see the legal framework. We start to see the move in regard to whatever it is, stocks, real estate, whatever.
When I search inside my gut, what I could see, because again, all this stuff that we're talking about, all these technologies, when you look at the longer timeline, we are so early in this.
Amen. True.
I could see for this year instances occurring that slowly build the pressure to push people in the direction of, hey, we need to give some sort of framework to this so that if this comes up again, we've got tools, regulatory, legal, to handle this. So I don't. It also depends too if there's any proactive people out there that try and get ahead of the curve and at least, if not get something into the solid, push the conversations. Or, you know, we've got this crypto friendly congressman or congresswoman who throws this out there. So at least I think if anything with the tokenization, you're going to start seeing the conversations coming up.
Well, I mean, I think we've already kind of seen that in 2023. There have been a few Congress people who have put out about, you know, tokenizing X, Y, or Z as part of their blockchain and cryptocurrency talking points. But I agree with you. I think 2024, we're going to see more of that, even if we don't see the physical doing of it, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, where it gets solidified.
Yep.
Yeah. Can I throw in a jape? Does this mean Raven Coin's going to be worth something?
Well, for those that are holding and or mining Raven Coin, they are going to be like, yes, of course.
You know, with for anyone not familiar, Raven Coin, their whole thing was they created a blockchain with the idea of tokenizing something. I think it was like 2017, 2018.
Yes, I think you're correct. I'm looking it up now.
And I think with the 2021, 2022 cycle, or the 20 to 22 cycle, we saw that if there were not any layer one tokens that really had traction as far as people are using it, people are building on it, they're collaborating with other projects, they slowly fell behind. And we also saw a lot of the layer twos built on top of Ethereum. The reason, you know, they have value is, one, they're in that token ecosystem like Ethereum or Solana or Avalanche or, you know, Tron or whatever it is. And then, so it basically, you know, it's like the, I don't want to say like the collaborative, the synergy between the layer one and the layer twos versus Ravencoin, which is a standalone entity, in which case you're stuck using their chain or nothing, versus if you're using something built on Ethereum, you have that entire ecosystem you can interact with. So Ravencoin's also been one of the more profitable coins outside of Ethereum when it was still proof of work to mine. So, you know, there's that incentive there that for some people for it to stay alive. So where is it at? So
I just brought it up on the screen right here. You talking price?
8 million. Okay, yeah. All right, 268 million in total cap value. Thing is, I don't follow Ravencoin, so I don't know. Is it?
Yeah, I don't either. I haven't since I kind of checked it out in the beginning, and then since then it's been like no. And here we go. Peer-to-peer blockchain handling efficient location and transfer of assets from one party to another. I don't know.
You know, when I see that transfer of assets one party to another, it immediately bounces me into one of the projects, like going into protocols for 2024. If you just want to roll into that topic,
sure,
is Chainlink. Like I was watching, so Bankless they had Sergey Nazarov, who's the founder and, you know, one of the face of the project, on for like almost 2 hours, kind of looking at it was a bit of a deep dive going into the technical details. But everything I'm seeing with Chainlink is that project, part of their thing is being able to handle the interoperability between chains. And for those not familiar, the whole concept of Chainlink is that they create a bridge between blockchains, this closed ecosystem of a blockchain and the data on there, yep, and the rest of the internet. So, and the way it works is that you have what's the word? Not a validator, an oracle.
An oracle, correct.
And the vesting into that is you have to buy link tokens and lock them up. And you have to have like a certain degree of accuracy and reportability of data. So let's say, I don't know, reporting weather for some reason. These oracles will be connected, by whatever means, an API or something, to websites that report weather data. They take that data, they report that and share that with the blockchain, and they're incentivized to maintain as much uptime and accuracy as possible because they're so vested. If they don't, then see you later, Charlie. Just, you lost your coins. You no longer have a validator node. And when I was listening to that interview, Sergey was saying there's over 1,000 oracles currently in operation and continuously growing. I subscribe to their newsletter. And every single newsletter you see, this API has been set up. Chainlink's now collaborating with this. Chainlink's being used with that. And I'll step down, make more points, and then step down. So if you want to jump in.
Oh no, go ahead.
Okay. And the thing that I see with them is that the potential for interaction between the chains is like completely unlimited. It could cover the way I think of Chainlink is because it's bridging. There's so many areas you can bridge. And also part of what they bring to that he talks a lot about is the security that comes from the validation of data and how the use of these oracles helps ensure that. And then he gives a lot of like real deep in the weeds use cases and all the technicals. But my gut impression when it really clicked for me a couple years ago was that they could absolutely be the equivalent of like what I would call like a blue chip protocol that can get used anywhere and everywhere. And the potential over however long it takes during this evolution of blockchain infrastructure into everyday life could be, when we look at the size of the global economy, it could be tens of billions of dollars. It could, be $100 billion. It could be more, it could be less.
Well, like you were just saying with regard to the tokenization, I mean, we're early.
Yeah,
we're early. So, and that applies with what you're talking about right here with regard to Chainlink. I mean, and it's use case and interoperability and so on. I'm with you.
The way things are going, and just as far as the legal framework and everything, I really wish Abra are you familiar with the Abra app?
Yes.
Yeah, I really wish Abra were back open for US retail, because that was how that was my vehicle for being able to do DCA for link tokens. And it's like now, other than using an exchange, which is like a little bit more cumbersome and it has a little bit more friction, it's like, God, Abra was so easy where you could just
Abra was easy. Yeah. And I was sad to see that at first it was like what did they do? They delayed the amount of time for acceptance of fiat, and then it was delayed the amount of time to withdraw, and then the next thing you know, it was like,
sorry guys,
see you later.
And I don't blame him either, because either Bill Barnhart, who was started Abra, either he saw the writing on the wall or he knew people that basically gave him the measure of what was happening, in which case it's like, you know what, we don't want to expose ourselves to that and take the
Yep.
risk.
Yep.
We don't want to be Binance.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
So,
Exactly. Well, I agree with overall everything you just said about Chainlink. I think Chainlink, huge mover, my opinion, in 2024. I think they're going to continue to make those connections. I think they're going to continue to grow their infrastructure. I think that we're going to see them. I know there's other Oracle networks out there, but I think they're it. I think they're it.
if you've got the founder doing interviews on CNBC,
Mm-hmm.
to me, because I think I've been trying to find it, haven't found it, but I'll see like little clips where he was interviewed on CNBC, and it's like that's just one more signal going.
Yeah.
And the nice thing about Chainlink is that unlike Solana, it's boring, it's steady. There's no big hype where all the retail goofy heads are going, oh, this project, this coin, oh my god, it's the future, going to the moon. It's so technical, but that's the thing. That's exactly what makes it so fantastic, is because the things that it tackles, it does well.
It is a much needed thing for where we're headed.
Yes.
So yes, I agree.
All right. And this is where I'm going to defer to you and go, what other projects, protocols, etc., are standing out for you as something to look forward to in 2024?
Okay. I am no fan of Solana. Let's just put it out there. Anybody that happens to be watching that hasn't watched me before, I am no fan of Solana. Too centralized, too many VCs, too much downtime, et cetera, et cetera. Although, in fairness to Solana, it has been a while since they've had blockchain issues. However, I'm not stupid enough or naive enough to believe that they are not going to do well in this coming cycle. I think they will do well because of that backing, because of that hype that you just mentioned, because of all that. I don't think it's going to be because of their tech. I don't think it's going to be because they're particularly doing something that is innovative, whatever. But I do think they're going to be a player in this cycle. Now, one that I'm looking at and think will be a ever-growing player in this coming cycle is a Hedera Hashgraph. Ticker on Gecko or whatever is HBAR. You've heard me talk about it a lot on Crypto on the Rocks. It's one of the DCA things that we do or have done in 23. But here's the thing. The more I do research about Hedera Hashgraph, the more I think that not only the technology is going to be easier to operate with TradFi Industries, but the fact that it is somewhat centralized, and again, I'm not about the centralized thing, but I mean, if this is what's going to help with the adoption, help to bring in the masses, okay, fine, I guess I can live with it. You know what I mean? To get people to then listen at least to the conversation. And I think Hedera is going to do that. It's like every time I turn around, they've got their fingers into something. For example, one of the things that I learned maybe only like let me back up just a second. I have been bitching and complaining on a lot of my streams about every time I log into the app on my phone for like my credit union, my local credit union, I get a pop-up that tells me, hey, create a digital ID. And I'm like, I ain't creating a digital ID with you. Screw you, kind of thing. I'll waiting for, a decentralized option where I control it, not you. I found out about 3 or 4 weeks ago that this is an initiative with the NCUA, the National Credit Union, whatever the hell that stands for, in the United States, and Hedera Hashgraph.
Like they're working in conjunction with that?
Yes, to put this initiative out.
Huh.
So think about that. And for those who are on crypto or have watched Crypto on the Rocks, you know LCX, which is a cryptocurrency exchange in Liechtenstein, who has tried to position themselves to do a lot of this tokenization we were talking about just a little while ago, and has done so in a number of areas already. Also got a connection and partnership with HBAR. So to do all of this tokenization. So they are positioning themselves, HBAR, Hedera, to be able to help to facilitate this TradFi move-in, if you would, to the blockchain space. I can't see any blockchain project, whatever, that's doing that not do well in 2024, because hell, we've been saying it. That's where we're heading. That's where things are going. And again, I'm not a fan of this more centralized options, but their protocol is good. I mean, it's like to the point, technically, I can barely even wrap my head around it. You know, again, I'm no programmer, I'm no, you know, I'm old guy internet, you know what I'm saying? But like the way I took the time to watch a 3-hour presentation by its originator, and I could barely hang on to understanding to what this was, but like as he was making the points, it made sense to me on the consensus algorithm in their gossip protocol, because their protocol is called gossip. It's innovative, and I think specifically what will help outside of the traditional like Ethereum. You know, Ethereum Foundation's got all these inroads with a lot of the TradFi stuff, right? But they can't handle it. They just, the fees go nuts when you got too much traffic on there, and they can only handle so many transactions per second. Whereas these guys, fees are non-existent. The speed is amazing, and it allows for, or from what I've seen so far, better interaction by the TradFi user to interact with the protocol to the point that they don't even know they're interacting with the protocol. I'm sorry. To me, they're moving in the right direction to bring in that mass adoption. I see them as going to be a huge mover 2024. So there's my project prediction 2024.
It's almost like they're just quietly going about doing their thing. Some of the news of what happens bubbles to the surface, but it's just, wow.
But it's just exactly. And they've got the mindset, and they're just doing it. And I'll tell you what, whenever I didn't realize anything about that like whole credit union thing here in the United States. And then when I literally had to dig that up, you know what I mean? To find that information. And I was just like, you gotta be shitting me right now.
Have you looked at the roadmap recently?
For Hedera?
Yeah.
Not recently.
Okay. The only reason I asked was it's been a couple years since I did, and I know at that time they were looking to, like, part of the roadmap was moving from a closed centralized chain to an open blockchain, more akin to like Ethereum. So I don't know if that was still on the horizon, or if they're still being like a closed.
I think their governance is set at this point. I mean, they have a governing council, 28 members, if my memory serves correct. And again, most of those governing council members, stuff like IBM, Boeing,
Dell,
yeah, you know what I'm saying? Big players
who have a financial incentive to make this work.
Exactly. And now the players, the governing council can change, with the exception of one. Swirls is the only permanent council member, but which is kind of the one who helped to promote all the coding and development, that kind of thing. But like all the others can change. So like, you can bring in whoever, kind of thing, and in out these governing council members. I don't think that they're doing that on the regular, to be completely honest with you, because as I understand it, and from what I've researched, they have a good symbiotic thing going with regard to what they're building, and they must, because again, you're getting all this, like you said, slow, steady, forward moving action, that I think the perspective of these huge entities helps to bring to what needs to come into the blockchain space.
Do the governing entities also do the validation?
Yes, they run much like Cardano. There's you can stake your HBAR, and it's a DPoS, so a delegated proof of stake. And the council members, those 28, whatever it is, each run a node, a validation node.
Do they have to, do they have to stake HBAR to do that, or they're just by design as being one of these entities, they are entitled to run a node?
They are the only ones entitled to run a node.
Okay.
But
they get rewards?
Say again?
Do they get rewards for validation?
Well, I'm sure they do. Much like, those who run the Cardano nodes, they all get rewards too, that kind of thing. It's the and I get it. They need the incentive to even bother to run the damn node. Otherwise, why? You know what I mean? I get it. But again, you and I can stake our HBAR through those nodes and get rewards back. Speaking of which, just to put it out there, the rewards were up around 5 or 6% APY. They have recently, these governing board members have recently brought that back down. I want to say it's go watch my video. I want to say it's 2.5% if memory serves now. But I see that as probably being a pretty steady base going forward with regard to those who want to stake their HBAR and secure the network, etc. So bottom line is, I see that as a project to watch in 2024.
Okay.
Just to put it out there for you, I do have to go in about 15 minutes.
Okay.
So
do you want to go into the open part where hopefully we have more positive things to
kind of final thoughts?
Final thoughts.
Go ahead. I was just babbling on for I don't know how long. Go ahead. You don't jump right in.
All right. I shall take the baton. Final thoughts. Excuse me. I think 2024 should get interesting. We're probably going to see more headlines where politicians in the US anyway will be making open stances on cryptocurrencies, probably including that more pro stances, even if it's just to court a crowd. The rhetoric will get bandied out there, just recognizing that this is a growing demographic of people, just as I represent this core, or I'm trying to, curry vote with this group. That'll be one of them. We've covered all of the regulatory things, I think pretty good for like topic areas and action items, if you want to call them that we might be seeing coming down the pipeline. Covered protocols that we like. I'm guessing for all my Bitcoin stuff, I could probably throw that into a video, or maybe just my commentary tonight for the weekly summary. Feel free
to throw it in if you want. Any points you think? Seriously, what do you think about BTC for 2024? Let's go there.
I will. I had a side question that came up when you're talking about Solana.
Okay.
Do you think we could consider that the Dogecoin of platform tokens?
I do. I probably just offended several thousand people. I don't know, but yeah, I'm good with that.
Okay. No, as far as Bitcoin goes, I could see if I had to you put a gun to my head, which I hope you don't, a price prediction, because my ability to predict prices is horrible. Just like that's why I don't trade. I could see with the price pressures. I just feel like based on past trends in this cycle, we break through 6 digits for price one Bitcoin token. I was listening to it was either TC Rabbit Hole Recap the other day, and the bet was, does the hash rate for Bitcoin mining go over 1,000? What are they up to? Exahash now?
Yeah. I don't
Does
know
it go over that?
Well, while you're saying that, I'll go look it
up. Let's see. Actually, I could top on a lot of touch on the Bitcoin stuff right now. Bitcoin's getting interesting because there is a lot of stuff that's getting built on top of it and going into implementation. Like there was this protocol called Stacks, which I think in a previous, maybe Crypto on the Rocks, we talked about it, where the things like the incentive coins like Nashville token or Nashville coin, New York coin, Miami coin, those are built on top of it, but they're also the BRC20s where you have the ordinals. They're one of the effects of this is that miners are earning, I'm going to say since November, a lot more. I'm going to say stretch out to like a 1 to 3 year on that chart. Get a little bit perspective on this. Yeah. With the efficiency of the miners coming out, I could see it. And plus, if the price is going up and people jumping in, I could easily, look how much has gone up in a bear market.
Yeah.
It's more than doubled.
Yep.
I could easily see it hitting that 1,000 exahash mark.
Yep.
But with the fee structure, miners are getting a lot more fees. In fact, it was last week, the week prior, the Brains pool, which used to be Slush pool, they mined a block where the reward, the normal Bitcoin reward is, I think, 6.25 Bitcoin per block.
Yep.
And the amount of fees from all of the layer 2 stuff going on was, I think, like 7 and change. So they had it basically doubled the block reward. And I think it was like the third highest amount in this particular cycle. Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. So you're getting that narrative of, well, even though this is so far away, this is what will take the place of blockchain rewards, you'll get the fees. So, we'll see how this develops, how the ordinals, the Lightning Network being built as a layer 2, the platform, the decentralized social media app, Nostr, how that develops. So yeah, and who was saying this? Oh my gosh. I was just, Coin Bureau. Yesterday, day before, they had a video talking about Bitcoin and the idea that on the basis that Bitcoin is seen as a true store of value, the idea of, for some protocols, and this falls into third-party risk rehypothecation issues, but entities that would accept staking Bitcoin instead of some like native platform token. So it's like that would be the collateral that they would use for that. Could that become a trend? I don't know. I think it's one of these things like, is there a chance? Yes. Is it probable? To be seen.
Well, I will tell you this. Where I was talking about Thorchain earlier.
Yeah.
You can already do that on Thorchain.
Really?
Yes.
Interesting.
Watch for my upcoming video.
Okay. So, and with the time we have left, I hand over the mantle to you.
Okay. Well, I really believe that 2024 is going to be a difficult year. I know that's not what everybody probably wants to hear, but my opinion is it's going to be a difficult year. And I'm taking that from a couple of different perspectives. The perspective of me and mine as U.S. residents, and dealing with all these different economic issues, etc. Anyway, I don't want to get down that rabbit hole completely, but I think everybody that's watching this gets my point. Just got to go to the grocery store for that. And so I think it's not going to get any better as 2024 progresses. As far as crypto is concerned in 2024, I still think it's going to be a bit of a rough year. I agree with you in the fact that I think there will be delineation line set for those, especially who are looking to get reelected, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, for the first time ever, I mean, in Bitcoin's lifetime, you've got it as literally presidential debate questions, and where they're actually really talking about it, not just passing it off or whatever. They're actually talking about it. It's a legitimate concern and conversation. And because of that is why I think, like we were talking about earlier with the legislative crossroads and so on, I think that there's going to be a lot more FUD thrown at the space. There's going to be a lot more Elizabeth Warren-esque crap coming this way. And though I think the space will get through it, and I think ultimately in the end, positively, I think it's going to be a bumpy 2024 for that. As far as Bitcoin, and you mentioned price prediction. Yeah, I'm with you. I see a 6-figure thing coming in here. Now, I will say this. The more research I've been doing with regard to Bitcoin ETFs, and as this airs, with any luck, we're going to get a Bitcoin ETF approval within the next few days. But I think if that happens, or not if, when that happens, whether it's in a few days or they can only kick it down the road till March, if memory serves, off the top of my head. So either way, end of Q1 of 2024. I think that we'll see an initial price hike, like we did when that false tweet came out and the price went through the roof. But my thought process is, as they start to, because even once the approval comes, they still have to get everything together to implement getting that ETF out. I feel like there'll be a little bit of manipulation because the market is still small enough that large pieces of money can move this market. And I think we'll see a leg down, so they get a good buy-in. And then, and then, by that point, we're into the halving, and then we're by the halving. And then I'm agreeing with you. By the time we're revisiting this in a year, I see a 6-figure Bitcoin. I'm with you. Yeah. That's my thoughts. That's my final 2 cents, 2 satoshis. That's my final 2 satoshis.
I can see that, where it's the hype. If I'm one of these entities, the hype is there. Okay, we can do what we need to do to get the sell drop, the panic sell. We get in, and then
let's hype it back up, baby.
And then, I almost feel like the potential to bust through the old or the current all-time highs is there. Just as we're getting into the precursor for the launch of the ETF. So yeah.
Yep. I agree. Well, I got to say, I'm glad we got to do this. I really am. I know this has been kind of well, one, a long time in coming, and two, a little bit of a long stream here. So I appreciate everybody that kind of kept in with us here and so on. And I mean, I'm just going to take a second to say links to both of our channels in the description of this live stream. Don't forget, like and subscribe. Matter of fact, here it is. Hit that like button, smash it up, subscribe, click that bell icon on both our channels. Appreciate that very much. And Happy New Year. I hope it is a great new year for you. Brian, I really appreciate you being here, man.
Oh, no, it was great. This was fun. It was a chance to really take the time to really draw out the details and go.
I agree.
Kind of like take kind of a semi deep dive into things, like look at what are the things that might be going on. So yeah, no, this was great. Thanks for hosting, and thanks everyone for checking it out. Hope you got something good out of it, and yeah.
Hopefully we'll be able to do it again soon.
Yes.
Stay tuned. We're gonna try and coordinate that. We're both busy guys here, so we gotta try and work it out.
Yes.
All right, everybody. Thank you for being here, and we'll see you again soon.
All right. Happy New Year.
Take care.